All right, welcome to the second CS456 lecture from winter 2020. Today we're going to talk about face-to-face conversations in the context of the terms we defined in the first video, where we set up contextual awareness, the 5 parts of a conversation, and that's that. All right, so one of the reasons I'm excited to talk about this material at this point in our class is that in the current state of the world, but especially Utah and the United States, a lot of our social interaction is going to be computer mediated for a while. And so as you pick up the principles that we're going to teach, I hope you can break down or analyze the forms of communication that are working in your life and that aren't working, and it'll help you understand their limitations and strengths as we navigate the next few days and weeks. Okay, so today is about face-to-face conversations, and let me share my screen with you. So great. So in face-to-face communication, we're going to talk about each one of these 6 things: context, initiation rituals, turn-taking, and you can read the rest of them there just fine. So in face-to-face communication, the context is complete. That is that if you and I are having a face-to-face conversation, then we are in the same physical space. We're looking at each other. We can hear each other. We can see each other. And so the context is very rich in face-to-face communication. Face-to-face communication includes initiation rituals. This is some kind of approach to each other, like we walk up to each other. I might lean in, or I might lift my hand up or something like that. So the initiation ritual is what I do to help you know that I want to start a conversation. And in face-to-face conversations, it can be all kinds of physical and non-physical things. So this can be verbal cues, it can be non-verbal cues. So turn-taking in face-to-face conversations, again, depends on both verbal and non-verbal cues. When I want to say something, I might go like this, or I might go, oh, or you might see my eyebrows go up like that. Or I might sort of say, well, you might hear me interpose some little sort of interstitial phrase to let you know that I want to take a turn. Farewell rituals, again, involve verbal and non-verbal things. It seems kind of repetitive to write those same things down for face-to-face interaction. But the fact that you can do both verbal and non-verbal things for all 3 phases, initiation, turn-taking, and farewell rituals, is a pretty important feature of face-to-face interaction. And you'll see later that as we lose those features, we lose a lot, and sometimes we get back and sometimes we don't. Cues in face-to-face conversations, surprisingly, are both verbal and non-verbal, explicit and implicit. And just to keep the trend alive, I'm just going to copy that and write it down there. Okay, so the best way to understand face-to-face communications, or really to understand these ideas in the context of face-to-face communication, is to break down a face-to-face communication. So this is a sketch from Studio C that has a face-to-face conversation. Comedy is a great way to see how face-to-face interactions work, because a lot of the phases of the conversation are exaggerated. So I'm just going to play this for a few minutes, and then we're going to go back and break down the elements.
There he is.
I'm so sorry. It was a crazy morning getting the kids ready.
Oh, don't even worry about it. I've just been going over some design ideas.
Sounds great. I'm excited to get working on this room for my son Clarence.
Clarence!
What's that?
Jimmy Stewart. Please, Clarence, take me back. I want to go back.
I'm not sure.
It's a Wonderful Life, the movie.
Oh, I'm sorry. I haven't seen it.
Really? Oh, hello, Bedford Falls.
Okay.
Okay, so it got a little jerky at the beginning there, but that's okay because we're going to break it all down. So let's go back and take a look at the initiation of the conversation. So let's say right about there.
There he is.
So you could see he sort of, as he walked up, he kind of reached out his hand
There he is.
right about there. So he said, there he is, and he's walking over and he's reaching out his hand. That's the beginning of the initiation ritual.
I'm so sorry. It was a crazy morning getting the kids ready. Oh.
So he says, I'm so sorry getting the kids ready. It wasn't like he really wanted to talk about that, but, you know, that was part of the initiation ritual. And then the other character, I can't remember their names, but anyway, the other character kind of leans his head in, raises his hand up. Oh, don't worry about it. And then they get right down to business.
Don't even worry about it. I've just been going over some design ideas.
Sounds great. I'm excited to get working on this room for my son Clarence.
Okay, so what we have here is a breakdown in conversation. So, and again, this is comedy, so it's a bit exaggerated. The other thing is that the turn taking isn't as easy to see in script-based productions because it's all scripted and they all know what each other's going to say. But let's catch that breakdown in conversation. So the guy who walked in thought we were going to talk about the house. The other guy changes the subject and the conversation breaks down. So watch how the conversation breaks down and then watch how it gets picked up again.
Sounds great. I'm excited to get working on this room for my son Clarence.
Clarence!
What's up?
Jimmy Stewart. Please,
So when he says Clarence, you can see that the other character sort of says, you see his head kind of lean in and he says, what's that? Now, he's not literally saying, what's that? Because that would mean, you know, what's that? Well, it's a word, it's the name of a man, Clarence. That's not really what he meant. What he meant was, I don't understand what you're talking about and why you're saying that. So it's an implicit verbal cue that the conversation just broke down. Not only is it an implicit verbal cue, but there's also an explicit or an implicit nonverbal cue. So the way he kind of leans his head in and changes his facial expression is an indicator that the conversation just broke down. So let's watch that again.
Clarence!
What's up?
Jimmy Stewart.
Okay, that completely failed.
To get
Let's
working
try
on
that
this room
again.
for my son Clarence.
Clarence!
What's up?
Jimmy Stewart.
So you can see that in face-to-face communication, the facial expressions change, the body language changes, the intonations change, the phrasing changes, all to sort of move the conversation along. There's one element that I missed. So we talked a little bit about initiation, walking across the room, stretching the hand out. But let me show you the transition from the initiation ritual to the turn-taking part of the conversation. So right about here.
Going over some design ideas.
Sounds great.
All right, so he says, sounds great. He kind of looks around, and then he says, I'm excited about blah, blah, blah. And that's sort of a verbal cue that it's time to talk about the design. That also sets up the breakdown in conversation. All right, let's watch it again.
I'm excited to get working on this room for my son Clarence.
All right, so at that point, he set up, let's talk about the design of the room. And then the contractor, of course, comes in and breaks the conversation. We already broke that down, but I'll let you watch it again.
Clarence!
What's up?
Jimmy Stewart. Please, Clarence, take me back. I want to go back.
I'm not sure.
So you could see the conversation continue to break down. Verbal and nonverbal cues happened all along. So that's it for face-to-face conversations.